7, 6, 5, 4. Here we go, Roger.
And on Insights, two eyes in the middle. INSIIGHTS, where we always talk the talk.
And with me today, the reporter, Rick Brown, but this is Mickey Clayton, the coach. Rick, what's your greeting for today?
It is 90 degrees. It is summertime. It is a beautiful day here in the neighborhood. What's happening, Insights family? What's going on? Coach, Ms. B, I know she's around somewhere. Ms. C, what's happening, folks?
You gonna get yourself shot calling off people's name, boy. You gonna get your name shot. You gonna get shot.
Hey, I do it all the time. I've been shot at before.
I'm sure you have.
I shoot back.
You shoot back. But your gun needs some bullets here.
Well, got plenty.
Oh, you got plenty. Plenty. Now, you know, we real quickly going to go back over something. You know, we always do a little review over some of the comments. You know, them people still pissed off with that Redskin football fan. Them Dallas Cowboys, you know, they get a little irate. You know, they're a little special.
They're special. They're special. Well, what they got for us this week, Coach?
Well, we had somebody made the comment that they were really glad that we actually brought up something about the HBCU players. I've heard that a lot, that not enough is mentioned about them. Mm-hmm. We had a young man that actually they thought was going to be drafted as high as in the 4th round. And he got no love. He didn't get drafted at all. In fact, we had nobody from HBCU get drafted. So that was a little bit of an issue. Then we had a discussion about the most valuable player. Remember, we had an argument about the most valuable player.
Right.
And they said the MVP is both the best player on the team and has to contribute the most during game time, practice, and off the clock.
Okay, the best player on the team. Okay, I get that, but is it the best player on the best team, or is it the best player on the best player in the league? It's so subjective. I mean, look. All right, give you an example. You see what the Warrior, Mr. Warrior now, Stephen Curry's doing, or has done. I mean, lighten it up. But the Warriors are like in what, 5th or 6th place or something like that. Is he the MVP? What about Bradley Beal for the Wizards? I mean, he's 2nd in the league in scoring.
Man, if you don't stop trying to mention Washington all the time, man.
202 stand up. 202 stand up. Where is it? Washington Post. 202 stand up. But anyway, don't get me started. Not yet. But no, seriously though. 2nd in the league of scoring, got them in playoff contention. At least the play-in game. I mean, is he the MVP? This is why we have the discussion, right?
No, we don't have the discussion because you might as well say Colin Sexton from the Cavaliers, who might not make anything MVP. So we just gonna cut that off right now.
Not even in the playoff picture. You're talking about the Cleveland Cavaliers. Come on now.
Don't hate.
Hate.
No, don't hate.
You don't hate teams that's below you.
Everybody, no, ain't many below us. Now, I did want to mention something else. We mentioned Marvin Wilson last week from Florida State and did not get drafted at all. Remember, I told you that I thought that his stock was going to be hurt, perhaps by some people talking, and he actually ended up being the most highly paid undrafted free agent in the history of football. The Cleveland Browns signed him, which is the only reason I had heard about it. And they talked about it over a year ago, that how he was projected as a low 1st round, high 2nd round pick, how his stock plummeted this year to 3rd or 4th round, and then not at all. And they talked about the turmoil within the program. And I don't know if that's really the reason. I still think some people had some issues because he spoke up.
Mm-hmm.
And, it doesn't take much to be branded.
And that's the turmoil. That was the turmoil that everyone's talking about, because he did speak up and he did have an opinion and he did want to stand up for what he thought was right. And these NFL teams, teams in general, not just the NFL, but since we're talking about them, these teams go do all this research, and you're going to tell me because one guy is outspoken, you're going to just leave? Nah, that's bogus. That's my problem with the NFL. That's my problem with them.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're all high and mighty, want to do all these things, but then they can't take out a guy who's going to stand up. If he's going to stand up for what's right, isn't that what you teach college students?
Yeah, but if being right means Black Lives Matter, not everybody sees that as being right. How the establishment feels, and they'll take any excuse, for that. So, what can we say?
I tell you one thing I will say, all lives can't matter unless Black lives matter. And I'll leave it at that.
I kind of like that, Rick the reporter. Is that an original concept, or did you get that from somebody?
No, it's fact. It's fact.
My bad. And I like that red hat, that red Insights hat.
Thank you very much.
And I'm not gonna stay on it, but I like that hat. Love it, and it's in red too. I see it. I see a cap of red. Insights. You better do it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. A shout out again to Live and in Color in Tampa. And where was that we were before I called it the wrong name?
Shout out to Pin Chasers. Thank you for having us last week. And the people there, the owner Anthony Peroni, our server. Geez, everyone there was just so nice and so helpful. So thank you very much. We appreciate you.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. We might have to go back down, and I'm not gonna go down this road too much because Bobby Bowden and Randy Moss. I mean, we can go down a history of athletes that got besmudged by their coach. But at the end of the day, I got a phone call this week from my legendary homeboy. I call him Skip Young. One time I called him Ahmad Ali. He said, "Man, you've been calling me Skip all this time."
Coach Ali.
Yeah. He said, "You don't that don't even sound right when it come out your mouth." But we talked about a little bit about should college athletes be paid, and so we got in a discussion, and I kind of cut off the discussion because I said, "Save it," because this sounds like a show for Mick and Rick. And so I got a couple of people. I got Joey Lamar, former sports editor with WCTV. I got two young ladies who were students with our Sites program, and Lanaya Lee met playing basketball at Ricketts. Everybody kept saying, "She looked like she could be your daughter." I said, "She's not my daughter." Lanaya said, "Well, you might as well claim me, Coach. You might as well just stop trying to act like that and claim me." I said, "As long as you don't need no money, then we good." And then ended up being my goddaughter, Camille Smith, named after her daddy, Melvin Smith. Camille, she probably get mad if I say that, but her daddy was my assistant coach with the men's team. And when I showed her my daughter's pictures of her, they were like, "Daddy, that's the little girl I was holding behind the bench in my lap." They said, "Oh my God, she's grown now." But I'm getting ready to add them to our stream.
Wait a minute, Coach. Is that Gloria and Danielle? Are these the two for freshmen here? Gloria and Camille, this is what I want to know. I mean, why don't you like Danielle? That's what I want to know. That's what I want to know. And Danielle, before she even answers, why are you so sassy? This question, I'm a reporter. These questions I just need to know.
Lanaya, you can go ahead and unmute Camille. Gloria, he talking directly to you about your sassiness.
Oh, about the book. I'm screaming.
That's fighting right there.
I
That's
just
all
delivered.
No, that was y'all put on the show. That was y'all. Y'all personalities just shine. I mean, and I could tell some animosity there. I mean, y'all just some good actors or something because, I mean, I felt it. I just felt it.
I thank
Yeah,
you.
and we got my homeboy there. See, you see, now if you ask them two right there something, they have an opinion. Coach Ali know that he got a history with Lanaya. He knows she'll speak her mind.
Oh, no questionable doubt about it.
Good seeing you, Coach.
And then we got Joey Lamar. He of Highlandman golf fame. He quite the golfer there. He likes to talk a lot of manure as he hits his birdies and things. I'd like to welcome everybody to Mick and Rick, and for the opportunity to share your opinions and everything with everybody. I thank y'all for being with us today.
Thanks for inviting me.
And Coach Ali, you were the one who started it with a conversation you and I were having about should college athletes be paid. And one of the biggest things that people say about not paying athletes is the fact that they get a college scholarship already. Anybody who want to jump in about that can.
Well, you know, this whole thing started with the idea of amateurism. To add a little history on it, and creating this idea that because you were getting being paid to go to college, that you shouldn't get paid. And basically, this whole thing also is a part of this workman's compensation piece that started way back when, and that's when the NCAA started pushing this whole thing about student athletes and amateurism, basically because of a guy that died playing football, and when his wife back in the 50s filed for workman's compensation, they were denied because they said that the NCAA was not in the business of football business. So it basically started from there, leading up to where we are now with the O'Bannon case of utilizing the name and image of athletes. Okay, and they're still fighting with the amount of money that they're making and not wanting the athletes to make it. But I'll say this last piece: they got a double standard. Two sport athletes. You got a guy playing baseball who ends up getting $1 million bonus, and he also was a quarterback for Clemson. That's one example. You got a swimmer from Texas who ended up winning the Olympics, beating Phelps, and from Singapore, but he was swims for Texas, made $740 something million dollars or thousands of dollars. Okay, that was okay. He still kept his eligibility. So I'll start it off like that with this whole idea of why they should pay these athletes and why they don't want to pay these athletes with the amount of money they're making.
Lanai, I see you nodding your head.
I don't know. For me, I know that I'm like just straight up. I'm not a student athlete. I'm straight on academic scholarship, and my refund was over $6,000 just this semester, just spring alone, and that was off me going to get scholarships. So personally, I do kind of feel like they are getting gypped. Like they work just as hard as I do because they're balancing school and getting up I have friends get up for rowing 4 a.m. They're out on the lake rowing. You know me, I'm from Tallahassee. We don't really do rowing.
What's that? What's rowing?
Exactly. So it was like to hear that they're 5-time national champs and they're not getting scholarships as much as the football team. It's kind of like, sheesh. Like I know they're up at 4 a.m, not leaving till 10 a.m., then going to class, then going back to work out at 5 p.m., stuff like that. And I'm over here, I'm just doing schoolwork. And I'm still making more than some of them. You know, some of them that are on scholarship per se.
Right.
Which for me, that's ridiculous. I feel like if I wouldn't, that's part of the reason why I didn't want to become a student athlete. Because I knew I'd be overexerting myself. I'd be spread out thin and not getting as many benefits as I probably could be as a regular student. So to me, it kind of hits different because I have a lot of athlete friends as well in college. And seeing them like obviously our quarterback and whatnot, they have a lot more leeway. You know, they get a lot more attention, a lot more things. I mean, they're not getting paid per se, but a lot of people look out for them more than like a regular, than maybe the kicker, you know?
Well, speaking of kicker at UCF kicker had at one time was doing some things on YouTube and doing some videos a few years back. And they ended up putting him off the team because he wouldn't give up the nickels and dimes he was making off his subscriptions of YouTube. And it was against the amount of money that they would let him make. Camille, I know your dad was a big time basketball coach and you grew up with sports and athletics. What's your thought on it?
I think it's unfair. Like she said, to piggyback, I had a roommate who was on the softball team, and she just was exhausted constantly. And she wasn't even on scholarship. She was a walk-on. She got her scholarship like second semester because she worked hard for it. But the fact that she was still doing the same amount of time as the athletes that were on scholarship and still wasn't getting anything at all, I think is a bit absurd, considering that in 2019, the NCAA brought in $41 billion in total revenue. So my thing is, if you're making that type of money, you can slide college students something. Like, something is better than nothing. Like, I struggle. I have a job in college, and I still like have to find ways, like asking my parents. So I can only imagine like the athletes who might not have come from the same background as I did, who are on these scholarships and don't have the means to do the same things that I do in college. I think it's unfair. It's ridiculous.
Thank you. Joey, I know you always have an opinion.
You know I have something to say. You know that. When it comes to money, there's no reason why these athletes should not get paid. Especially now with the television contracts. When you look at Texas, for example, there was an article that came out, and this was 7 years ago, that every player on the Texas football team was worth $655,000 each player. Mm-hmm. So you have enough money to pay these players, especially with the television contracts. Now, when the television contracts weren't as high, you could make that argument. But what you're bringing in and the television money that they are generating and what you're getting back in the scholarship is not even close. Like, even if you try to add in lifetime earnings, if you add in lifetime earnings compared to the 4 years they were there, I mean, it dwarfs what they brought in off you. But the system will never change because it's unpaid labor. Why would I change the system if I'm the NCAA when I have no overhead? I don't have to pay you. The universities take care of all of the health care. All I got to do is sign the check. Why would I change the system? It makes no sense for them to change the system, and they're going to fight to keep it that way. They're not going to change it. It's too beneficial to them.
Modern day slavery, straight
That's
up.
Exactly what it is.
And there's no doubt about it. They know that. This is why basically they still talking about, they arguing the position of pay for play. They're going to continue to argue that position, but that position right there basically does nothing still for the athlete. Now, what's getting ready to happen, like you got Master P's son, as many of these other young black athletes now are coming back to HBCU. They're coming home. His son said he wants to be a leader. He wants to come back. He wants to help his people. His father has already negotiated endorsement for him to get paid once this case gets settled out. And he'll be probably one of the highest, probably the highest paid college athlete that we've known about, based on endorsements. As we know with most professional athletes, they make their money in endorsement. They get a base salary, but most of their money is made with endorsement. This is what's getting ready to happen.
But see, now, if they pay these athletes now, they're gonna have to make it into a business. So it's gonna have to be capitalism. So if you don't bring in anything, they're gonna cut you. Right? The women's polo team isn't gonna make a lot of money. So they may cut the women's polo team, because if you're gonna run it like a business on one side, you gotta run it like that on every side.
But then
and that's what they're gonna say. So by not paying them, they still have the opportunity to keep those sports and let football fund everything else.
Lanai, you were going to say something?
I was just saying, but like, let's say they do, obviously at UCF, the way they do it is football is equivalent to women's rowing. So if women's rowing isn't bringing any money in, which they hardly do, they definitely spend more than they bring in. Then so they do have to cut women's rowing. Then Title IX comes into play. And then it's like, okay, but like you said, if it's a business, then it's going to have to be lawsuits dished out because Title IX is huge and everyone knows Title IX is everything. Even when we're working, when we're getting scholarships, Title IX is there. So it's one of those things. I feel like it's always going to be tit for tat and no one's going to be right until, maybe nowadays my generation might actually start standing up and saying like, I refuse to go to this PWI and put all this effort in and not make any money, or be treated like a regular student in terms of scholarships and whatnot. Maybe they will follow, some of the leaders and go back to HBCUs, which I would love to see happen.
Well, let me be devil's advocate. If you go to HBCU, do you think that your opportunity to make endorsements will be the same as if you go to a Power 5 school?
Well, I personally believe that a lot of times people think if they go to these PWIs that yes, they'll get looked at more, but what they don't understand is if your talent speaks for itself, they'll come to you regardless. It doesn't matter where you go. And like, that's something that I think this last year people are starting to kind of realize with this whole Black Lives Matter movement is like, they'll come to you. They'll find you. If they found you in high school, they'll find you in college. So it really doesn't matter whether you go to one of these big schools or an HBCU. I don't think people realize that quite yet in its full potential, but I think eventually we'll get there. But it doesn't make a difference whether you go to a white school or a Black school. It's just the level of competition that you're getting versus the actual exposure.
Mickey, let me throw something out, because the young man brought a very good point. Listen, you still, if you're talking business, what you're talking about right now is you have an institution of sports, business, and college that is denying the athletes their full compensation, right? That's what we're talking about. So what's happening is we're talking about the freedom of the athlete to be inside that system, but to step outside that system and utilize, and when they're using their image and their name to make additional, basically money. That's what this whole thing is about.
All right, let me be very clear about something, and people aren't going to want to hear this, but integration killed the Black colleges, and it also killed, just like it killed the Negro Baseball League. Right, so integration was great because we got an opportunity to go to schools and to prove that we can make it at any school on the education side. But on the athletic side, what happened was these coaches figured out I can put these Black athletes who a lot of times were superior to the white athletes and I put them on the field and they'll sell more tickets. So when you sell more tickets, you raise more revenue. So they were making revenue off you and just trading an athletic scholarship. Now, I don't think they knew TV would take off like it did, but in hindsight, that was the biggest thing. That's why Florida State has Doak Campbell Stadium and FAMU has Bragg, because of the money they were able to generate. Because if we don't have integration, you can make the argument that it would be the reverse. Is anybody willing to argue that there's a white school that would have the national championships that they have without Black players? Can you give me a national champion in the past 40 years that doesn't have a Black player? What if that Black talent was concentrated at HBCUs?
Yeah, I mean, there's no argument on that. But I think we're gonna stay on topic a little bit, still with paying college athletes, and that is a part of it. It really is. Rick, you've been quiet.
Yeah, because I've been listening to everyone, and we know that a bunch of states are priming to push this name, image, likeness bill or their own portion of the bill through.
Didn't California pass it already?
Well, California passed it, but it doesn't take effect until 2023, I believe.
Yeah,
That's correct.
You have a bunch of states, including Florida, if Ron DeSantis, once he signs it and he's been supportive of it, it starts in July. So schools are going to have to come up. Well, not schools, because it's not the schools that's paying these athletes. These are, as Coach Ali said, endorsements or whoever used their likenesses.
yeah.
But this is my concern. Do we open up a war now with other states? I mean, I can see why the coaches are pushing in Florida, are pushing for it now. You think this is going to flood the athletes to these states that open up the bank a little bit?
Hey, Rick, that's what
Yes,
they're
sir.
saying. That's a part of one of the issues, that it being used as a recruitment tool. That's one of the issues that has to be approached and dealt with. See, and certainly it will. You know, and I don't see what's happening right now with Nike. What's happening with some school kids who decide to go to school because one school has Nike and say, man, if you ain't got Nike, I'm not coming. This has been happening for years. You know, so it's really in a sense no different. Sorry to cut through you, but you know, it's the same stuff, just different in terms of when the athlete gets involved. When you talk about paying the athlete versus the school getting the money, I mean, come on, saving all of them, making millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm talking about he made last year by what, $11.1 million.
No, he made more than that.
I mean, look at Bowden. Bowden was up to about $5 million. So I mean, what are you talking about here?
I think the issue is on the other side. It's not the recruiting. It's after the player has been there 2 or 3 years, and you have because a big issue on these campuses are runners. You have these people who will be posing as marketing agents trying to sell you this endorsement, but really they're gonna come up and be like, "Hey, if you sign with this company, I'll get you this deal, but you got to sign with this agent." So I think the issue is on the other side, and how do you police and make sure that there aren't side deals going on where people are targeting these college athletes before the draft. So I think the issue is on the other side.
Okay.
And the other thing I'll say is, I don't think you'll have a lot of athletes that make a lot of endorsements off this. And if they do, it'll be 2 or 3 athletes, and they probably won't make any more than 10,000. The average will probably be 3, but there probably won't be a lot of athletes that make money off of it, because it'll be targeted towards small businesses, and I don't see small businesses being able to spend, the large sums of money to get these athletes to to be their spokesperson, and it'll put a lot of pressure on the athletes and the companies to say, do I want this athlete to represent my brand? Because we do know that 18 and 19-year-olds don't always make the best decisions sometimes. So that's going to be a lot of pressure.
Absolutely. But let me say this, and you're absolutely right. Let me interject this. They're already investigating a scam that's been going of underground recruiting in basketball for years. North Carolina, Kentucky, all of these schools have underground recruiting going on, paying families to get kids to go to school. I won't name names, but there was an incident that happened in Tallahassee years ago. Mickey, when you was coaching, you weren't coaching the guys. There were some guys that came out of Michigan, came down here, played AAU, went over in a hotel here in Tallahassee, and were paid to go to a school right on the spot.
But I think getting off target a little bit, and once we get into athletics, it's real easy to branch off a little bit. But I want to reel us in a little bit and address this particularly to my 2 younger members of our group here. And one of the ways that they could probably make money would be as social influencers.
I was going to mention that. I was going to say, I know the comment was brought up about how small the endorsements may be and whatnot. But as a college student, I know my mentality is all money is good money. Like any money is money, regardless of how large or how small it is. If I can bring in, personally, I have a decent sized fan base on social media. So I know that people will reach out and be like, hey, can you post this? Can you do this for me? Can you do that? And as of right now, I have no problem with that. But if my fan base, let's say I'm the quarterback, like if I was the quarterback or I was the star point guard at a school, and I know my fan base can hit anywhere 1 million people potentially. I know our girls basketball team, UCF, we were pretty far in the playoffs, so they were easily seen by 1 million people. If I knew that I could do that, I would have no issue taking on these little endorsements and whatnot, because I know in time it could just keep growing and growing. Now, I'm not saying everyone has the same mentality, but I know that I have friends on the football team, and they didn't come from the best background. Their parents, they weren't as blessed as I was to come from like a middle income family. They're not gonna have any issue representing anybody and making sure their image is up to par, as long as they can bring in $500 here and there, $1,000 here and there. Not even that, a meal is a meal nonetheless, especially when you're in college. So I think sometimes the conversation does get like overlooked. Like, y'all are more mature now. Obviously, y'all live lives. Y'all are still living that adult life. When you're like 17 through 22, 23, we're still finding our way. We're still trying to find a way to be stable financially, mentally, and physically, especially if you're a student athlete. So I think it's, I don't know, the whole conversation is just going to be a lot, because, Coach Ali has talked about one side, and Coach Clayton talked about another side in terms of the business aspect, and then Joe, you mentioned the whole representation, like college students representing a business. I know personally, if I was a business, I would not jump to a college student to have them represent me, because I know what we do. I know firsthand. I see it all the time. Mm-hmm. And then there was another point I wanted to make. I can't remember, but it was something along the lines of yeah, and social media plays a large role nowadays, especially with us. I was gonna say that it was that with your quarterback, and as I mentioned, your star point guards, they're gonna get more attention than everybody else. So that's the only thing that I can think of that had me kind of iffy about endorsements and paying college athletes. But once I got besides that, I was like, it really doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, everyone on that team is still working just as hard as your star players maybe,
Right.
And I know that one of the things they want to do is that's going to make it almost impossible, is they want to make sure that they keep a tab on what you're making, how much they're making. And when you start doing the social influencing, you have different people that are now paying you. There's no standardized rate for you to support or wear or drive.
There you go.
Something. And see, just that social media is something that I'm sure the NCAA, again, we talked before on our show about the fact that they tend not to diversify the NCAA working administration. And in doing so, they miss a lot of things that are currently going on with the younger people, because there's nobody younger in there to try to tell them. And so right off the bat with social influence, and that's an easy way that people will find loopholes to try to circumvent if they're trying to monitor how much money Lanaya can make, or how much money Camille can make, and how much money Joy can make. And it's going to be extremely difficult to do.
And with no federal oversight, which it doesn't have right now, and with the NCAA, just crawling along and hoping the federal government does something, these loopholes are going to grow bigger and bigger and bigger as more states get involved.
Right.
Well, that's an interesting point you bring up, Rick, because the NCAA does want Congress to help them out, and Congress is saying, if we help you out, we're gonna have to provide some oversight to you, and we're gonna have to be trying to, I don't want to say take it over, but put some rules in place and some regulations in place. And does the NCAA want to concede the power that they have now and the anonymity that they have now to get this help from the NCAA? Because to give something, you got to get something. And Congress is all about power. That's why politics starts with a P. It's all about power. And so when they feel like they got you over the coals, they're going to rake you.
I don't think it's anonymity that the NCAA operates with. They kind of operate with absolute rules. Whatever they say, they have nobody to tell them what they're saying is right, wrong, indifferent.
Right.
And they just make unilateral decisions by a group of men sitting in there and making decisions even with about women's sports and women athletics.
Mm-hmm.
And we won't even get but a topic for another day. We might touch on this transgender. But it's just a whole lot of stuff that's going on out there. And
Coach,
go ahead, Rick. You were gonna say something?
No. On that note, I mean the Florida's law that they want to pass, and I'm gonna have to read this because it's pretty interesting. It says state funds may not be used to join or maintain membership in an association where decisions or proposed decisions are a result or in response to actions. Meaning, like if
I was going to ask you, what the hell did that mean? Because I was like, what are you saying?
If the NCAA comes down on any Florida athlete for making money, or if the NCAA wants to pull out of Florida, pull its championships out of Florida because of the transgender rule that they came up with, or any rule that Congress has with the Florida legislative has come up with, Florida, the legislation will stop giving money and force the schools to go their separate ways, to leave the NCAA. So this brings up another can of worms.
Rick, we just said we weren't going to go into transgender. Your ass just.
But no, it's part of it. It's not just transgender.
Rick, I need you to
you understand what I'm saying. Will you listen?
Mute your ass.
Will you listen? Will you listen, please?
No.
Because it's more than just that. It's more than just transgender. It's any rules. It's the voting rules.
I said
it. It's anything that this is why it needs to be national oversight to this, or some kind of oversight. Because if individual states are allowed to put in little nuggets like this, then what's going to happen to the NCAA? What's going to happen to championships?
They gonna fold like they always do. They need the states more than the states need them. If these schools got together and said, we're going to create a new league, there would be no NCAA. They're going to fold because they don't have any power. They don't even have subpoena power. They got in trouble a couple of years ago trying to investigate Miami and told the federal investigator, hey, can you ask them these questions here? Like, they have no power. So if the states said we don't want to be a part of it, we're pulling our state schools out, they're going to acquiesce in a hurry to whatever the states tell them to do.
To show you how much in control the NCAA tries to be, there was a time when if you were a professional athlete in one sport, you could not play in another sport. And one of the guys that changed that whole rule was Waldo Williams from Merritt Island, played at Florida State. He was signed with the Cincinnati Reds, and he ended up getting the rule changed that he could play football at Florida State, even though he had signed a professional baseball contract.
Mm-hmm.
The NCAA tries to control all of that. But I'm going to wrap this up because we're already over, even though I do have a comment. And they said that's what the Power Five have been considering for years. And they're absolutely right, because the Power Five is absolutely, for football, is outside the realm of the NCAA and pretty much able to do whatever they want.
Right.
But because of one of our viewers, Dr. Persaud, former retired professor at Florida A&M, he felt like one of the things that he wanted to see us add on Mick and Rick was a component to remember some of the legends who had competed in the area. And we started a segment that we started today, actually, would be the first segment of us doing that. And in it, one of the things that guys that we ended up doing it was about a guy who was actually my teammate.
I'm there, honestly, to get my degree. I saw Mark when he came to my high school playing basketball. He's pretty good on the court, but that wasn't quite the only thing that caught my attention because he is quite a looker. He's a cutie. Tight pair of blue jeans and a hawk top.
Sassy. She's
It's
just
over.
sassy.
She's got him on lock. Whatever girl it is, has gotten his attention. As for Gloria keeps drama. That's just what she is. That's just who she is. Guys love her because she has them like a puppet. She can make them move however she wants them to move. So,
get your popcorn ready.
Surviving with my heart in one piece is a priority for me.
Gloria is my name, being all that is my game.
Oh.
I come from Southland Tech as a student who's seen life. I'm gonna graduate with my degree and from life. I don't back down, and I don't play. Everybody ain't 18 in life. If you can't handle it, don't play with it. Most of these boys are boys. They think they're men, but they don't even know. That's why they're freshmen. Just fresh, not men. Why y'all got her with a Southland Tech shirt? We supposed to be cheerleaders or something? Little Miss Goody Twos? Is that what y'all think?
The hate is real.
Maybe they do. But Gloria wants them in. Did I say that? Well, I've been brought to life in Freshmen, and I plan to make the most of it. Read Freshman, but my story is the story.
With me today in our segment called Remembering the Legends is a legend himself, former and it froze.
No.
And it froze. The piece
That's
of
what
Andre Dawson and the fact that he and Joe Durant were teammates and roommates and went to the Hall of Fame, played baseball at Florida A&M University, played with Montreal and Chicago Cubs, and the old baseball field. Everybody went to see the Hawk play because he hit one. It ended up in Gator parking lot, and everybody was like, "The Hawk hit a ball that far." So everybody started going to see him play, and he actually had tried out with Florida State, and because his knee was hurt, Florida State didn't sign him, and he crossed the street over to Florida A&M. Pop Kittle signed him, and the rest is history as he ended up making it to the Hall of Fame. And one of the things that Coach Durant talked about was how Andre and some of the other former players, which we got some pieces on them coming, Marquis Grissom, Vince Coleman, and some of those guys all gave back to the FAMU baseball team at the time. FAMU was the best dressed black college baseball team in the country. They had 4, 5, and 6 uniforms, none of which were purchased by the University Athletic Department. Mizuno had a contract with some of those guys, and they made them give gloves back to the school, bats to the school. As long as they were able to give proceeds back that went to the baseball program, not to anybody else, those guys gave back willingly. And even had Andre came up with the idea of doing baseball cards. And they had a place over in the Civic Center where the people were lined up at the Civic Center, down the hall and outdoors, signing baseball cards, where Andre would be there, Dwight Gooden, Gary Sheffield, all those guys would come back. They had a relationship with some of the car dealers where they would get a car for a weekend, and they just came and made money hand over fist. It all went to the baseball program. And they did that for 4 or 5 years until other people decided that they could use the money that was going to the baseball team for something else. And the minute that happened, that was the end of it. So the guys had said, as long as the money went to them, then that would be what they would do. They would give money to them as long as it went to the baseball team. And I want to thank everybody, and we're going to work on why we didn't get that done. We're going to have somebody every week, and you see Lanaya, Camille, Danielle, Gloria, y'all need to stop laughing. I need to get y'all a copy of Freshman. I know Joey got his, and Coach Ali got his, and need to get your copy of it. And we appreciate everybody for being a part of this with us. Y'all are really special.
You're the special one, Coach.
From Insights. Visit our website at insights.com. 2 I's in the middle, INSIIGHTS.
Insights is the copyright of Mac4 Enterprises, a Florida corporation. This broadcast is produced under the exclusive ownership of Mac4 Enterprises and is the intellectual property and trademark of Mac4 Enterprises. Comments of the host and other individual speakers on Insights represent their independent thoughts and representation.
Ladies, thank you for joining. We appreciate y'all.
I will see y'all soon. Thank y'all.
Have a good one.
You too.
Good night, y'all.